Welcome back to another fun, exciting, should be interesting since we have a fun and exciting guest this time of A Guide to Poor Parenting, a podcast where me, Jason,
and me, Jennifer,
have a few drinks
and talk shit about our kids.
Please follow us on Instagram at Guide to Poor Parenting and Twitter and Facebook at Poor Parent Pod. Miss Jennifer, you haven't met our guest very long. You just met him 5-6 minutes ago, I think?
Yeah, something like that.
And I have only met him once more at a Big Brothers Big Sisters event we did together on Thursday. So to all our 11 listeners on this podcast, welcome to the pod. Tim, I didn't catch your last name. What is your last name?
Miller.
Tim Miller. He's a local celebrity. He's
Oh no, I'm just a neighbor, a guy that works for the guy that works for the guy that works for the other guy.
Yeah,
no.
all the guys.
Yeah,
you're definitely
we all work for the woman.
Yeah.
You're definitely the most famous person we've had on this podcast. So thank you for coming, and for everybody out there, Tim Miller.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Is radio. He's the morning radio host at WHRP 94.1.
Yeah. Co-host with I co-host the show with Tony Terrell. So it's Tony with T Mill in the morning. Just came on board a few years ago, and I was blessed to catch her attention and come on board to do something brand new. So yeah, Tony with T Mill in the morning.
Ooh, nice.
So if you heard that was my husband spilling wine on our couch. Luckily it's leather.
Quick save. Yeah.
So how did you get started in radio?
So my radio started when I was 10 years old. I was recording over cassette tapes from my grandfather. Mm-hmm. My grandfather used to engineer the sermons and recording sessions at the church at Oakwood College.
Oh, nice.
And somehow at 10 years old, and this is in the early 90s, that I figured out how to dub over cassettes. Mm-hmm. And once I got in trouble for doing that, he took me to a pharmacy, got me some blank tapes, and said, look, if you want to do this over blank tapes. Mm-hmm. And I started making mixtapes. There was no YouTube, there was no encyclopedia of how to do this. Right. I must have saw him doing it. I made my own mock tapes. We call them pause tapes, where you would listen to a song on the radio, and the only station I would listen to at the time was We Up. Uh-huh. And you would, if you have a boom box, you got all these buttons. You got record and pause and play. Press all three of them down, and when your song comes on, you press pause and you record your song. When you're done, you press pause and it wait till the next song. Mm-hmm. But you gotta wait for the DJ to get out the way so you can make it sound like it's your own.
Yeah.
So I would make up mock commercials, weather, news.
Oh wow.
The different personalities, call-ins, everything. I didn't have a life, so I was just by myself to my own devices and made up all these voices. That tape wound up in, my grandmother was the dean of Wade Hall at the time. Wade Hall is still there at Oakwood. It's now called Oakwood University. It was Oakwood College. That tape wound up in the RA's office, the roommate, the resident aide, and she came back to the dorm to ask me. She said, hey, are you Dean Landy's grandson? She says, Dean Miller's grandson? She says, how do you, where do you work at? What station do you work at? How are you working at a radio station? I said, I don't work at a radio. I did this in the living room. I thought I was in trouble.
Right.
And she goes, can I have this? I said, I guess. Yeah, sure. And then one of the students, my grandmother's the dean of women, so we're in a women's dorm. Mm-hmm. My life dream, just living in a women's dorm on a college campus at 10 years old.
Yeah.
And one of the students came to the door and she asked how much could she buy the tape for.
Oh.
I told her $10. I'm 10 years old, $5. I told her $5. She bought it and then clicked. I can sell this tape of something that I recorded in my room and sell it for $5.
Yep.
So I went and knocked on every girl's room in that dorm selling tapes. And that's when I knew that college kids were the most resourceful, because every room was a different business. So you had a hair salon, you had a tutorer, you had a cook. They were selling plates out of the dorm rooms. They're doing hair and all types of stuff. So my radio career, my interest in radio began then when I figured out someone would actually buy this and they're interested in hearing it.
Oh, wow.
I think that's all. I am the whitest of crackers out there, but I've heard tale from documentaries that's how a lot of rappers started. They would record stuff and mix it
Yep.
and then dub in their own vocals.
Yep.
And then sell it out of the back of their cars. In the
Yep.
trunks.
Sell it, direct to consumer.
Yep.
You know, and you think about it now, you have to get how many streams to get $5?
Yep.
You know, and this is just on a cassette.
Yep.
Selling it then. So yeah, necessity is the mother of all invention. If you want to do something bad enough, you'll figure out a way to do it.
Yeah. I wasn't interested in being a radio DJ, but I did do the tape on top of the cassette so you could tape over it and record the songs. And I used to hate when the DJ talked too much. I'm like, no, you're missing the beginning of the song.
It
And
took
then
me a while to get to the tape because I was putting toilet tissue in the tops.
Oh, okay.
And then it started getting, tangled up in there, and I'm going, oh, you can put tape. That's the best way to do it.
Yep, that's what we used to do. And then do that so that way I could have my own mixtapes of what songs I liked from the radio. Because, back in the day, you didn't have no money to go and buy a whole album, so you just did it off the radio and figured it out.
That was the beginning of playlists.
Yep, that was.
Mixtapes.
Yep, I loved it. And then putting it on CDs later on for people, like, here, I made you a CD. I like these songs. Let's see if you like these songs. So, yeah, I understand that. I like that, too.
Yep.
I didn't do voices. I don't like the sound of my own voice, so I would not listen to it.
You got a great voice.
Oh, thank you.
She won't. When we first started this podcast, hold on, I'm gonna grab a cat. Zane, we take the cat and put him in the back. So when we started this podcast, I had the hardest time listening to my own voice and editing myself. So like a lot of the first, I would say, episodes, I was like playing at double speed so I wouldn't have to hear the timbre of my voice just to see if I missed anything up. Nowadays, I'm a little bit lazier. I just like hit some buttons. I'm like, all right, normalize the loudness and take out any dead spots. And we haven't had to stop the podcast in a while so we could but yeah, I hate hearing my own voice, but you just got to do it.
I'm the same way. I'll check it every now and then just to see what I sound like, see if there's need to be any improvements and things like that. But yeah, I can't either.
That's funny how we all don't like it.
Even when I record, I'll have one can off my ear because I don't want to hear.
Yeah.
I want to hear just so I can know that I'm good, but
even
then I don't care to hear myself.
Yeah, we talk like the podcasting recorder I have, we have the option to get headphones for everybody, but even I don't particularly want to hear my own self. So I'm just like, I will try and fix it in post, and
exactly.
Our poor 11 listeners will just get what they get.
Well, 12 because I subscribe.
Yay, look at us. Moving on up in the world.
I better stop. We're going to get copyright infringement.
Don't do that.
It's an interpolation.
There you go.
So from the thing we did on Thursday, but I don't even know what that was.
So honoring our mentors.
Honoring our mentors, that's what it was. Did I hear you have a podcast too?
Yeah, so I have a podcast, In Tune with T Mill, and it's on your regular podcast platforms and YouTube as well. And that podcast is about changing the status quo, about everyone's complaining about problems, nobody's got solutions. So we try to focus on music, edutainment, children, youth awareness, and to talk to folks from different walks of life that are doing those things. And we try to solve problems. So, there's an election coming up in Huntsville. Mm-hmm. Instead of us talking about, who's doing bad or how much we don't like whoever's in office, let's talk about how to change that, or, who's running for office, and try to balance it in a way where it's not, again, you're not trashing someone, but at the same time, we're not just wasting time on Facebook complaining about something that we have no intention of ever changing,
or trying to fix,
it's
anything like
do
that,
some solutions. So it's a great podcast. Shout out to the Maitland Conservatory. They've been a great support of it, giving us a place to record and do all that. So
oh, cool,
that's awesome. So is it just you, or do you have just guests on, or how does it?
So it's myself and JQ and Marcus Sims, and the three of us, we get together usually on Sunday nights and we go live, and we talk about whatever the topic is. So tonight, what's this Sunday? So this is awareness. So each Sunday we'll pick a different one. It'll be music, edutainment, children, or awareness. Tonight will be something about awareness, and we have a good time. Try to keep it a little bit local as well, because there's a lot of great resources and initiatives and things that are happening around the city, but we also try to balance it with Marcus Sims' crazy humor, and JQ keeps us all in line before we go off the rails. And somehow we land the plane and try to solve a problem by the end.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome. How long y'all been doing it for?
So this will be so I started the podcast in 2010.
Wow.
And this iteration that most folks may know of it, probably about 8 years.
Wow.
So this is going on, we're going on 20 years now.
Wow. Do y'all post it to, what platforms? Do y'all do YouTube or?
It's changed so many times over the years because copyright strikes and we would play music and things would get taken down or so yeah, it's on YouTube, wherever you find podcasts, it's there, and Facebook, of course, and yeah, so your regular, Google and well, I think Google's going away eventually. So wherever you find your regular podcast.
Yeah, well, I'll put it in the show notes when I upload ours so we can promote it too. That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
Well, what's it called?
It's called In Tune with T Mill.
Very cool. So you started selling the mixtapes. How did you? And that was when you were 10, and since you're only 30.
I'll take it. Yep, that's what we're going with. Yeah.
So how did you go from 10-year-old Tim making mixtapes and selling them to sweet ladies in the college dorm to becoming a radio DJ?
So from there, I went to every school in Huntsville, about 12 schools in 12 years. And by the time that I got to high school, I became interested in music production. And a few of my friends at the time, we were the only ones we knew that were producing music, songwriting, recording at home. And for me, it just made sense because I knew recording, but just from doing radio, but I had no idea of how to record music. So we started doing music production, did that for a few years. We did work with different artists, and out of the music production, it was one of those things where after MySpace and Facebook was just coming on the scene, and it just felt like everyone was getting into music production. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I got to do something else. Everyone's doing this now, music production. And as we're talking about podcasts, everyone's doing podcasts. So it's like I get into radio. I found a website. It was called nowlive.com, and it was literally a dashboard that you could upload your music and play music and phone calls from within that dashboard. This is 2009, 2010.
Okay.
And so it was like a makeshift cloud-based radio station.
Wow.
And Now Live wound up selling, and then they became Blog Talk Radio. And so when I started on Blog Talk with Now Live, there was something in that first few years where it just clicked, and it was like a brand new toy. So it's like, you mean to tell me I can take phone calls, I can host a radio show, I can invite people to listen, and I can interview guests through Skype and play music. It was all in this cloud-based software platform. So that took my interest away from doing music, and I just started doing it from there on Blog Talk. And that kind of led me to start, one person tells you, hey, you sound great on the radio. That's all you need to hear, and you just keep doing it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
You do have a good radio voice.
Yeah.
And, you obviously know that since you work in it.
Thank you.
How long have you been at WHRP?
So I've been at WHRP for 3 years, and that actually started from a chance encounter doing my podcast on live streams, and this is during COVID and the breakdowns, shutdowns and whatnot. And I have a bad habit of when I'm hosting events, I could be at, Sidetracks Music Hall, when it was Sidetracks Music Hall, or Low Mill, or doing any type of event. And if I see you walk in and I'm on stage, Jason, what's happening, man? What's happening, Jason? I could be in the middle of hosting the show, and it's just a thing that I do. Now, Jason may not want everyone to know that he's there,
that he just
so it
showed
becomes
up.
a little awkward. And I try my best to stop doing that. And so I'm hosting live, and I'm doing my podcast, and at this time during the shutdown, there was nothing else to do but just play music online.
Right.
So every night I would just go online and play music and take phone calls and just, hey, how you guys doing? Are you okay? Like, let's do parties at home. Like, what are you drinking tonight?
Right.
Let's play some music. I'll be up till 2 a.m. What else are we going to do? We're not going to work.
Yeah.
Let's just, have some fun. And in one of those sessions, I saw the program director at 94.1 WHRP come in, and she comes in the chat room. And so I'm, hey, Tony Terrell's here. What's happening, Tony? What's going on? Tony Terrell's in the room? And I feel like in my mind, I could see her exit the chat.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh man, damn, I did it again. And so the next time I'm hosting, Jason has the Eddie Murphy laugh, by the way. I told him that at the Honor Our Mentors.
He does.
So for you guys listening, that is the famous, iconic Eddie Murphy laugh.
Yep.
And so from that, she contacted me about the live stream and just simply asked, hey, have you ever thought about doing radio? I said, yeah, a billion times. And the thing was, I've only done a demo tape or an air check for radio maybe twice in my whole life, only because I was so afraid of rejection. I think I've only submitted, in my whole life, I've only submitted maybe 2 tapes. One to WEUP and another one was to Hot
107.7. That was back in the day.
Yeah,
you're bringing back memories now. Woo!
So I only submitted to those 2 because I just didn't think I was ready. I had no formal radio training, and she asked, was I interested? And I told her, yeah. So she presented an opportunity, gave it my shot, gave it my best, and I've said this to her and to many other people. A lot of the success I've had is working with black women, and there's I don't have that mindset. I grew up playing football, playing sports. I can take criticism. I can take creative criticism and critiques and everything. So it doesn't hurt my feelings when someone's trying to make me better.
Right.
It doesn't do anything. It doesn't take anything away from me, and I can tell she's a natural born leader. Like, she's been in radio longer. And this is with all respect, like, she's literally been in radio longer than I've been alive. Mm-hmm. So it would take me taking to what she's telling me of how to do this. And before I got to WHRP, I was also at WLRH. And so learning what Brett Tannehill and Nate Emery and those guys would teach me, hearing it from her and more, I'm going, oh, okay, this is a thing. Like, this is how you do this. This is traditional radio. So not only did I want to learn what new methods were, I also wanted to learn the traditional methods. And so that chance encounter with Tony Terrell, and just, again, I tell people all the time, do what you can, do what you want, but there's always somebody watching. Yeah. So you just never know.
Yep.
I'm about to say, when you mentioned WLRH, when you're talking my turf,
yeah,
Jennifer's like, I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a proud member of the local NPR station.
Oh, that's NPR. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So how'd you get involved with NPR or with the WLRH?
So WLRH, there was an invite somewhere. I can't remember where I saw it. It may have been I went to a recording of No Huntsville, and No Huntsville was a podcast that they would host, and they would have these different, there was a live show, so you could go, they would record it at the breweries, and they would record the podcast, and you show up, you watch them record, drink a couple beers, and meet some folks. And one of the shows I've been listening to on WLRH is The Invisible City with Brad Posey. And shout out to all the Frisky Kittens. Somehow me and Brad got to talking about WLRH, and I'm following the page and following his podcast, of course. And I saw they had an invitation to a community newsroom that they were creating. And again, I said, well, this is my shot. I could have went to a radio station and tried to work there when I was 10, but I was just always getting in my own way, thinking that I wasn't good enough. I don't have the training. I've never been to school. Yeah. So this was the shot where I said, okay, let me at least see what this is about. And
it won't hurt.
Yeah, it won't. Like, what is it going to hurt? Either I've been rejected before, I get rejected again. Mm-hmm. So I started at the community newsroom. We started doing different stories, and they're showing us how to do radio shows and how to record, how to edit, how to create theater of the mind. Yeah. And this is Brett Tannehill teaching us how to do this and giving us different assignments, and that was awesome. So from there, he got the idea of what he said. There's a lot of this music. A lot of us that were in that room were involved in the local music scene. We were doing music events, and he comes up with this idea to try to do a local music show, which is Valley Sounds. So we started Valley Sounds, and about a year later, we won an award, and that's where I started with WLRH and doing the community newsroom, and then we did Valley Sounds. I did that for about a year. COVID happened. It really jacked us up.
Oh, yeah.
And, I pop in every now and then, listening to Valley Sounds, but I haven't been a part of it in about 2 years. But Nate and Brett still assure me that, you know, I'm still good. I'm still part of this camp, you know. So yeah, that's how I became a part of WLRH.
That's
Well, good.
so cool. Yeah, all these names are like bringing back good memories of driving to work, and it was like Brett Tannehill, and I know Jennifer doesn't know any of these things. She doesn't listen to live radio anymore, but
I remembered 107.7, so I'm proud of myself for that.
Yeah.
That was when I listened to radio, and that was We Up 107.7, 94.1. That was one.
Absolutely.
That's my type of music.
There you go.
That's That's what I used to listen to. But now, got Spotify, got all these other little things that you don't have to listen to commercials. I'm just like, I don't want commercials no more. So
unless there are commercials on this podcast, which you can, you know.
Yeah, but we don't have those yet.
We're not sponsored yet.
Yeah, we're not sponsored yet.
This is a labor of love
yeah.
right now. This was something we formed during COVID times because we were sitting around bored, and I was listening to a lot of podcasts. I'm like, hey, do you want to do a podcast where we just bitch about the kids?
It's really good, yeah.
So, I mean, like, we're still a work in progress. It's more of a passion project than anything. I quite haven't figured out how to make it profitable, but we just enjoy doing it. So I figure if we can get a big enough catalog eventually, I'll figure out what the hell I'm doing, and we'll get it profitable.
And we've met some really cool people doing this. Like people that I probably would have never met before. Like just to be able to talk about, you know, everything and learn new people is like nice. I like that.
Cool.
Yeah, we had a guest on recently who would take her daughters to. She would take her daughters, park in the parking lot of Pleasures the Pony, and they would just watch guys go in and make fun of them.
Oh my god! And come out.
Oh my goodness! That is the best. Right? You come up with some good stories.
Yeah, definitely. Sure. And it's like, you know, what happens if you see Daddy walk up into the pony?
Yes.
Oh, good time. Yeah. So, since you're only 30. And you've been doing this whole radio thing for so long. Where did you have time to like get married and have kids?
In between. So all in between, you know, so I have 3 kids, my daughter and 2 boys. My daughter's the oldest. She just had a baby boy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm a granddaddy. Yeah.
Oh, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
A 30-year-old granddaddy. That is really some feat right there.
They call me G Diddy. So my boys are both still in high school, and one will be graduating this year, Tim Jr. Braden will be graduating next year. My daughter is Tania. She's graduating. She's doing her 3 kids. Had my kids early, so
at 15,
you know,
doing the math, trying.
But it's been good. I'm glad I did, because I'm seeing a lot of my friends now that are having kids, you know, early on or later on in life, and I'm like, I don't know if I could have been doing that at this age now. You know, I would have, in a perfect world, I definitely would have wanted to, or if I would have, you know, would have waited, but in hindsight, I'm glad I did, because I'm still young with my kids. And not that they're old having kids, but it's just a little bit different having kids at 40.
Yeah.
You know,
like a brand new baby at 40. Your patience goes down the older you get, you know.
And your energy levels.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. We, we're grandparents who are a 10-year-old, and we have custody of her, but, our daughter has a 3 and a 1-year-old, and I told Zane, it's like, I'm going to take a life insurance policy out on her, because if something happens and we have to raise 2 toddlers, we're going to get a nanny, because Grandpa tired. Grandpa very tired.
One visit and you're sleeping for the next week because they didn't run you ragged, one day.
A lot, for sure.
That's so cool. I really didn't think, because I assumed, joking aside, I assumed you're our age. Like, I'm 46. And
so I'm 41.
Oh, Jesus, you're younger than I thought.
You are the youngest. I'm 42. So,
you're the baby, and you already have a grandbaby.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're like Congressman Lauren Boebert.
Yeah. I already got that grandbaby. I told my daughter, I said, are you serious? You're going to give me a grandbaby now? What are we doing? Come on.
Hey, now you might have more energy now than if you're like a 60-year-old grandparent. Just,
But it definitely puts, one thing that it put into perspective was my relationship with my grandfather. And so you have all these ideas about how you're going to be a grandparent and what you're going to do and how you're going to spoil the kid and things like that. But it's, for me, there's something there in the relationship and the story of my grandfather, and it just keeps, as soon as he was born, my grandson, it just brought all those memories back, and I'm going, all right, I have a guide to being a grandfather because of my grandfather, and I want to be as cool as my grandfather was to my grandson. And so I guess I never thought about that, having kids, like, oh, I have this example of how to be a father, and I never looked at any of those parallels. It was just like, all right, I'm gonna figure out how to build a plane in the air and just be a parent.
Yep.
But with my grandson, it just, I don't know, it just hit me a little different. So
it's been an experience with, like, we adopted our son at 7 when he was 17, so like we didn't have his baby, but we've been raising our granddaughter Kalia since she was 5, and she's 10 now. And the experience I have with both of them and other 2 granddaughters is very different, because it's like, oh, you're crying, go to mama. Yeah. I was like, I get to be the fun parent.
She pooped. Here you go. Change her diaper. I'm not gonna do it. You know?
I don't want to see her face no more.
Right.
Take her.
Bye.
Get her out of my house.
Yeah. I think that's why grandparents can spoil, unless they're helping their child raise their kid. It's a different situation.
Yeah.
But my grandparents were always just spoiling me because they never got to really see me much. So that's the kind of grandparent I want.
Yeah.
I hope I won't be one until I'm 85. But
85.
You want him to be in his 50s when he has a child?
Yeah. He might be responsible by that time,
I doubt it.
Oh my God.
I'm just exaggerating. Of course. But
For sure.
We'll give her at least 10 years before he pops out a grandbaby.
No, he's going to be 13 in less than a month. He needs to be at least 30 before he has a kid. He is not responsible at all. He needs more time to grow.
Yeah, kids need time, man. Like, we think, kids are mature in their 20s, and it's like, we know. It's like, it's not till you start hitting 30, especially guys. Like, we don't figure any of this out until we're like in our 30s.
Yeah. But who are these people that think kids are mature? It's like, we certainly don't.
Well, they start putting all these responsibilities on them. Like, they go, all right, you got to get out, you got to get a house, you got to pay taxes, you got to do this. And you start putting all these responsibilities on them like they're grown, but they're still kids.
Yeah.
And then the kids that have to raise themselves at 20, 22 out in the world, and they're forced to grow up fast, and not, and the guys that don't mature until they get into their 30s, and they're having all these problems and issues. And then the girls, they figure it out. They're at 24, and they're, they mature as they're all going to get.
Hell, I was 13.
See, this is early. Like, women just mature a lot sooner. And so there's, there's the grandparents, you spoil them. And then there's, of course, aunts and uncles. Aunts really spoil, too. Like, aunts will spoil you to death.
My aunts are.
Well, if you like the nieces and the nephews. I have a favorite nephew.
Just put it out there. Got a favorite.
I have like 13 nieces and nephews, and I have a favorite nephew.
Crap.
So, yeah, he knows who he is. So I ain't gonna
He's
put nothing on there, but yeah.
And none of her sisters listen to this podcast, so we ain't worried about it.
Yeah.
So when did you have your first child? So you were like 20?
I was 21.
Oh my goodness.
21. Coming out of high school, going into college, and I'm like, oh man. It was just, again, it was one of those things. My mom, she told me this. She said she knew I was dating at the time. She knows I got a girlfriend and I'm hanging out. And she says, Timothy, I'll tell you, I'm living with my mom. She says, if you get a girl pregnant, you are on your own. You are not I'm not doing it. I'm not going to become that grandmother.
Yep.
She says, I will pack up and leave. You will be here to your own devices.
I've already been a mama. I don't want to do it again.
She's like, I'm not doing it. And I'll be damned if, when I didn't tell her, she literally, in my mind, this is in a week's time, she got a U-Haul, she packed up everything, and she goes, all right, you're on your own.
Good luck.
The rent is paid up till the end of the month. The utilities are paid up. The cable's still there if you want it. Next month, it's on you. And she left. And I'm glad she did, because, at the time, I didn't know what to do, how to do it. I just knew that I had to do something to, try to, bring this child into the world. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I was working at Office Depot at the time. I'm making $5 an hour. $5 an hour.
Good old minimum wage back in the day.
Yeah.
Rent is, I don't know, maybe $500. Utilities. I don't have a car. I'm walking back and forth to work.
Oh, wow.
But, through prayer and I was luckily to be one of those parents that I could, with my child's mom, raise our daughter and do the best we could, all right, I got to get a car. I got to get her a car. I got to get, we got to move out of here. We got to move to another apartment. And we've got to pay taxes and we got to do 401ks now and just make it up. I mean, we partied. We partied. I'm glad. That was another thing. Like, I'm glad that I did have my kids young because we did a whole lot of partying. But by the time that I did get into my 30s and 40s, I'm done with it all. I'm like, all right, I did all that. We had the neighborhood parties, block parties, people sleeping over and all of this. And it was just a different insight. So I'm glad my mom did it that way. Because raising all of our kids, there was never a point where I never wanted to be that parent that was like always dumping my kids at my mom's house.
Yeah.
Taking my kids to my grandmother's house.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to do that. So I made sure that, you just make it make sense. You get a job. Luckily my job at the time, they had not tuition reimbursement, but healthcare reimbursement. And I figured out a way to flip it to where I'm putting money into this account. I'll just take that same money out and keep paying daycare and just let it rotate back and forth so I wouldn't have to pay daycare. And we just made it work. So, it probably could have been a lot better. I'm sure my kids may have had some things that we could have done better, sure. But I'm glad of how we raised them and, the way we did it by my mom just literally putting it on me the hard way to say, look, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Just do this. And I think a lot of that comes from my mom being a single parent and the way that she raised us of just by any means necessary. We didn't live in the best houses. Like I mentioned earlier, we went to every school in Huntsville because she was always moving around, jobs, things like that. But what that taught me was you can figure it out.
Right.
There's a way to do this the way you want to. And there's no excuse, for failing. And, and at that point, if I didn't want to be a parent, I would have gave my kids up for adoption. I have that mindset where if I just didn't want to do it, I'm not going to raise a kid only because I have a kid.
Right.
It's like, if I really don't want this kid, there's adoption, there's foster care, there's plenty of other people that will take care. And I think people are afraid of that, where they think they have to take on the responsibility or there's a paycheck in it and they're like, I'm just going to take care of this kid because I can get a paycheck every month or every year or whatever. Yeah. And you have to want to do it, Yeah.
We see that kind of... I've seen that a few times in foster care where parents like, just have a bunch of kids to pay the bills.
I couldn't do it. I'd rather sell drugs. Like, I couldn't just have a kid just to get the paycheck.
No,
there's plenty other ways.
Kids are way more expensive than that paycheck is ever. And I know there's people that abuse that and then like feed the kids just like bread and water and then they just use the money for themselves. So there are, situations of like child abuse when that happens. And that, unfortunately does happen and no one catches it. But yeah, if you don't want to be a parent, because the child is going to feel neglect the whole entire time.
They don't ask to be here.
No.
They don't.
That's not their responsibility.
Yeah, it's not their responsibility. So if you don't want to if you know in your mind you don't want to have kids. Yeah. There's things you can do to get fixed to where you don't have to have kids.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Speaking of which...
just do it. Like, snip, man, because there's people where it's like you look at them and you're like, I know you don't want to be a parent. Why are you still having kids? Yeah. What is wrong?
I think for men especially, like they think it like robs them their vitality or something like that. They're not a man.
All this CBD and pills and medicine, and you can figure out a way. It's like, come on, like there's better things you could do.
And unfortunately, women, we don't have the choice to be 20 years old and be like, I'm never going to have kids. Please just tie my tubes.
Yeah.
Because they won't do it. They'll be like, no, one day you'll decide you want to. No, I know for a matter of fact, I will sign anything you want me to. No, we will. But a man can go into a clinic and be like, look, give me a vasectomy. And they'll be like, oh, okay.
Wow, that's crazy.
Women, they don't listen to women.
Yeah.
Hey, they got to change.
Well,
My son
and-
told me he didn't. He told me just straight up. He's like, I don't want to have kids. I just don't.
And the not the cool thing, I guess, for a man, but you can get it reversed.
I told him. I said, dude, there's things you can do. You can either get the procedure and get it done, or you can get it reversed, or you can freeze your sperm.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, if you change your mind.
Yep.
I said, because I don't want you to. I said that is something that you should, a decision you should be able to make, man and woman.
Right.
To whereas people don't make you feel some type of way because you don't want to have kids.
Right.
Because I've got homegirls that to this day, they're in their 30s and 40s and they don't have kids, and it's like the biggest conversation. Why don't you have kids?
Because I don't want them.
I don't want them. It's like, what is wrong? I don't have nothing wrong with kids. Like they like watching kids. They watch their nieces and nephews.
Right.
They just don't want to have kids.
They like
But
being on
people,
tees.
people chastise them for not having kids.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, it was
all
like,
right.
chastise me all you want, but I got all this money and
I can take a vacation when I want to. I can just leave at the drop of a hat. I don't have to worry about schools or anything.
Yeah.
Being a parent is a choice.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Definitely.
and a tough one at that.
Yes.
It is, and you have to, really think about, it's not about you. It really is about the kid.
Yep.
And if I had to do it all over again, I would definitely make sure that I was in a position to put more time into my kids. I put time in, but it's almost it's literally a full-time job.
Yeah.
Where you have to say, you know what, there's no time off. There has to be someone there and 24/7, with this kid. So there's got to be someone home with the kid, at all times. There has to be the rearing and the discipline. Like when you go back and look at how you've raised your kids, I wish I would have been able to be in a position to keep, my kid's mom at home or one of us at home, because it just takes that much time where practices, rehearsals, meetings,
Games.
therapy, games, and outings, and it is 24/7.
Yep.
And if you're not able to do that, you start to try to fill in the gaps here and there, and it's all wonky, and it's not a good thing. So it really is a full-time job to where people have to really think before they have kids. Like, come up with a plan and know that, all right, one of us has to be there 24/7.
Yep.
That's just, if you want it to work, somebody's got to be there 24/7.
Yep.
The other one's gonna have to figure it out and that's the partnership that you have to have.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky, you can do that and then swap it out. Again, say maybe you can really plan it out. We plan out everything else and just say, all right, well, maybe 5 years from now you'll stay at home and I'll go to school, or you can stay at home and then I'll go to work, and whatever it is, and then figure that thing out. But just not have a plan, and then you're working, if both of you are working all the time and not pouring into their extracurricular activities, studying, school, being a parent that is at the school all the time, you're gonna miss out on a whole lot. It's just doing them a disservice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I only say that because I've made those mistakes time and time again. So I'm not telling you something that
But in essence, hindsight is 20/20. You just do what you can.
Do
when
what you can,
You have regrets. Of course, everybody does. But with I chose my son. I didn't give birth to him, so I adopted him when he was 8. So he is mine, unfortunately. I'm just kidding. But I am a single mom, so I'm not there 24/7. I'm there when I can be. We do what we can and we figure it out. And and then times I tell him, look, I'm new to this just like you're new to this. We're both new to each other. I mean, even though I've had him for 4 years, it's like, we learn as we go.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. We're all going to have attitudes. We're all going to have, issues, but we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that you can do as a parent is just figure it out.
And go find the answers, because you can be a single parent and have brothers, or sisters, or
gay best friends.
Gay best friends.
Yeah. That's
people
what
to
I
help
have.
you out.
My village right here.
You have a village, people that want to help
Yeah.
and that are willing to help. And so it doesn't have to be the end of the world if you're a single parent, or if you're not the best when it comes to being at their games and things, and really, create your tribe and make it make sense, to where you're not just leaning on them. But don't put it all on the grandparents, you're dumping them over there every weekend. The grandparents can't never go anywhere because they've always got the kids, and then you're not paying them. Like, make it make sense, to where you pour into them, because luckily my mom, she had, a best friend, she had her tribe and people to help out and step in when she needed help. Right. So, that's what you do. You make it,
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We go to, Jennifer and I go to a support group for adoptive families, and we always joke that it's like there are two types of adoptive families. The ones that have like one child, like Jennifer and us.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have two. But...
And then we have two, but she was an adult, so she never lived with us. Or there are 12. People with 7. Yeah, and we actually know one single mother from our support group. She's a teacher, and she has 6 kids that she's fostering.
Well, fostering and adopting.
Yeah, 2 of them I think are adopted.
Oh my goodness!
And I'm just like,
I can barely handle the one I have.
Yeah.
I have no idea how she does it as a single mom. She takes in teenagers and she takes in kids. I praise her.
Yeah.
But there's no way, because like if I didn't have them, Jason and Zane, like I don't rely on my mom. My mom is Oma, which is German for grandmother. She is Oma. My pops, which is my stepdad, is Pops. They go to church with him and they come to his basketball game, and they do grandparent stuff. I don't ever rely on them to do like parent stuff. But unfortunately, I rely on them to help me out a lot. So. Yeah.
But it's parenting is tough. I will say, when you were talking about pouring energy into your kids, it was like there is kind of a sweet spot with kids, because like you were talking about, when you're younger, you don't have the resources to pour into them. But when you're older, you also don't have the energy to pour into them, because like we find that too ourselves. Like I'm like, oh, you want to do 4 extracurriculars? Grandpa needs a nap.
Yeah.
I was like, I love you. You can read. Okay, good. I don't need to come to like everything you have to do at school.
It's a lot, and these things cost money. It's the time, and so you really need. It's just something to think about and consider. You know, whether you're having kids early in life, later in life, just have a plan and really. I don't think we have enough of that, like places where you can go that they really break it down, what you're about to be up against and what you may want. You got financial planners, like you need a kid planner, you need a baby planner, somebody to say, hey, this is what's going to make sense, or this is what's going to happen in 5 years if you don't get this together. And I remember seeing a billboard somewhere where, and this was like my daughter was 4 years old. They may have had it in the daycare center where it was like, the cost of a child at 18 up until 18 years old then was $100,000, and I remember freaking out like, that's a lot of money, and I saw the hospital bill from all the procedures, and I'm going, so it costs $10,000 to like pop a baby out, like to have a baby, like just the procedure and all the medicine, and then like kick you out in 3 days. So that's just $10,000 right there. And you don't have that. So if you don't have insurance, of course, you put it on your insurance or whatever. But imagine if you don't have the insurance. They're not going to say you can't have this baby until you give us the $10,000. But just the thought of that, where it's like, that's $10,000. And now I've got another $150,000 that I have to do over this lifetime. And that was, 21 years ago. So now I think it's like maybe like, I don't know, it's like $500,000.
It's a lot, because if you think about kids nowadays, or parents with infants with diapers on, their daycare is more than most people make in a month.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Just for the month. So it's like, why would I work? If that's all it goes to daycare. And if you're just a single mama, you can't afford that shit.
That is a lot.
And then you worry, because then you have to go to kind of the seedier areas, because you can't afford the,
kids
the better ones.
Kids at that point.
Right, exactly. And it's just, it's a bad cycle that we have.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Of being able to take care of kids. And then,
that's a healthy kid, by the way.
Yeah.
So imagine if that kid has any type of ailment, speech or health problems or anything, like again, I got to take hats off. You got to respect anyone that raises a kid. But when you're starting to talk about kids that are sick or
have a
struggling
disability,
a little bit, or disabilities and things like that, like, come on. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we bitch about, Jennifer and I bitch about a lot about, like, in European countries, the country itself supports families. And our country just like, oh, you want a kid? Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just make it up on
Fuck
your
y'all.
own. Yeah, it's like, you chose this.
Yeah, and now it's, you can't even have an abortion if you want one just because you had that. So it's... that makes it even worse because there's already a lot of children in foster care and that are up for adoption, and it's just making it even worse, in my opinion.
It blows my... Yeah, that's a whole other story for another day.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing I've...
It is, yeah, I agree.
My God,
I agree.
And again, as being a parent and a father, I cannot imagine telling my kid's mother that she had to have.
Yeah.
Like, there's just...
Well, especially if it was like an ectopic pregnancy where she was going to die from it.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, sorry, you have to die.
Yeah.
And leave our 3 children behind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was, by the time we got to our second, so she had a miscarriage on her second pregnancy. And by when that happened, we started having a real conversation of, when she got pregnant the third time, it was a real conversation, and I had to ask myself, if you decide that you don't want to go through this again, I'm okay. I want to go through with it, and I want to have the child, but if you don't, I totally understand.
Right.
And it was one of those things that while I was saying it, I was kind of like, you better have a child. But it's like, I can't tell you what... I just can't fix my brain to like tell you that this is what you're not going to do. You have to do this.
Yeah.
Like, you're the one going through the labor.
Yeah.
You're the one
destroying your body.
Destroying your body. And it's just a whole thing. So I'm like, if I get it. If you just decide that this is not for you, I get it. And then once we had, our third, and she's like, all right, look, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I get it. What am I going to tell you? This
right.
is your body.
Right.
Like, because trust me, if I want to get a tattoo on my eyeballs, I'm going to do it, because it's my body. But the fact that you can tell, that's stupid.
Yeah. I agree.
I always think about it like with Kalia, she's 10 now. She's a year into puberty already. And if she gets assaulted, like by a coach or something at school, I'm like, how could I tell her, oh, you have to carry this baby at 10, for God's sakes? It would rip her apart to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And
we would go to
I would. Yeah, we have the resources. I would go to New York or something. But
you have to at this point. I mean, if anyone's to the 13 people that are listening to the podcast,
hi Mom.
You have to have. I feel like you have to have like that whole drug dealer mentality. You have to have bail money in a mattress. For when it's time to go. And then you have to have that other stash for oops. You gotta, when you just, it's like you have to, because if that happens, you can't get an abortion. You can't. You're gonna have to travel. You got to go to all these different places. It's a whole thing. You need to have money somewhere. To where it's like, if you get locked up, you need to get bailed out. Or if you just got to drop everything and just run, you need to have 2 accounts. And for those things, to where it really, an emergency fund is what people call it. But you just have to, because until we vote for someone that is going to make sense of that, and like, it's just not gonna change.
Nope.
Not in Alabama.
Nope.
Yeah. I'm almost at this point where I just want, the current. I just want to see what happens. Like, just let's just let her win, because we all know what this looks like when you got 44 white men running the country, and we've seen this story time and time again how it's going to turn out. Just let a woman get it right now. I just want to see what's going to happen.
Right.
Like, just let it happen.
I would say I think our country would be very different if we had like a majority of our legislators were women.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think we have a very different country. All right, I think this is probably a good transition spot. We actually didn't do it at the beginning. What are we drinking, Miss Jennifer?
Oh, you want to make me say it?
Did you want me to do it? Or you want Tim to do it?
What are we drinking?
I mean, he took a picture of it.
That's true. He doesn't have his phone.
Let me get the picture so I can.
It's our Old Faithful.
Yeah, it is our Old Faithful, but on my phone it says fill out once chosen, because it doesn't make it. It didn't refresh.
Oh, sorry about that.
So unfortunately, we have our guest tell us what we're drinking.
You can't find it. Okay.
We are drinking Nighthawk Black bourbon barrel aged Cabernet Sauvignon from the Bota box. Stays fresh for up to 30 days. Nighthawk Black.
WHRP.
Right.
94.1.
That was so your radio voice right there.
You know, you got to put it on. It's so
That's
good.
right. You know? Yeah, it was a good one. I
This
like
is
that.
delicious.
Yeah, this is a kind of our old faithful.
Yeah.
We've been drinking this, for like 3 years probably.
Yeah.
We just wanted to try it one day, so we bought it in the grocery store, and we're like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
This is my winter drink. Oh, and we're getting
I could
refills.
do it in winter. So what do you do like in the fall or?
When it's warmer. For her, it's her year round.
24/7.
I'm with you. That's gonna be my all.
Yeah.
For me, during the summer, with the warmer months, I usually want a white that's cold or a beer.
Okay.
But in the winter, when it's cold, it's like, oh, I want some of that red.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
care
really
if it's
good.
hot or cold. I just
Well,
like that.
and the nice thing is too, like during the week, if I don't drink a ton during the week, but if I open a bottle, it's gonna go bad. Like but with the box wine, it stays. Like there's no oxygen in there, so it just stays fresh the entire time.
That's
Yep.
true.
So it's so good that I'm like, we've had probably this box open for 2 weeks now, but it's fine
Yep.
because there's no oxygen in
Definitely
there.
got to move to the box because that I feel you. Because now if I get a bottle, I feel obligated to. I'm like,
Drink
oh,
it
man,
all.
I gotta drink this thing tonight. You know? So it's like, oh man, what am I turning into?
And I mean, for like $20, and it's like 4 bottles in one
come
box.
on.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you
It's-
can't lose
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah,
you know? And it's really good wine. It's not like it's baby wine, bad wine.
Yeah.
You know, it's good wine.
That's a good wine for
Yeah.
because people think you have to spend a gazillion dollars
Nope.
on wine.
Yep.
Like you really don't.
Nope.
20 again. That's a good median. You can get a lot of great wine for $20.
Well, that's $20 for that box. That's 4 bottles, so that's like $5 a bottle.
Oh my god. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Oh. Yeah.
that's
so-
cheap as hell.
Yep.
All right, so okay, so we've had our cocktail, which is the Bota box. Do you want me to introduce the snack time, or you want me to do it?
I think you already did because you said that I didn't eat any.
Oh yeah. So I was funny when I asked you what you preferred, savory or sweet. I was like, I had found a recipe on TikTok for soft pretzels, like what they sell at Auntie Anne's. I was like, ooh, I want to do that, but I didn't give myself enough time. But I found this is a recipe I'd make for like a lot of Christmas parties and whatnot. But it's a spicy sausage ball.
Yeah, it's
And,
good.
Yeah, I made a ton of them. I'm gonna freeze the rest of them, just make them as I need them. But this is one of my favorites. Okay, so we've had our cocktail, we've had our snack time. Now it's story time. So, Mr. Tim, do you have any funny or embarrassing stories about your kids, or about yourself when you were a kid?
Funny or embarrassing stories about my every day. No.
Very true.
I mean, and I wish now, I used to record everything with my daughter and videos and things like that. And now I have to figure out a way, I will figure out a way to sort of start documenting all these pictures and videos that I have on social media with my kids because, when Facebook closes or shuts down or Instagram or whatever, I don't have any of those. I got a lot of memories and things like that are just jam-packed on there where I was scrolling through and I'm going, man, I've got to back some of this stuff up because there's so many memories and stories that, I don't have backed up.
Right.
But, man, just one story that comes to mind is my daughter at the time was maybe 3. And so really just one of those stories where I do have the daughter that, we come home, we leave her alone for 4 minutes, and I'm sleeping in the room and I get up, you get that thing where it's like they're too quiet.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Something's going on. Something's on fire. And I know I left her alone for every bit of maybe 5 minutes. And we're living in a 2-bedroom apartment at the time. I come out of the room and she somehow figured out how to crawl out of her crib. She's on the floor. I didn't even know there was this much baby powder in a baby powder container. But she covered from the living room to the kitchen to her room. And I'm just going, I wasn't even mad that the only thing I could think about was where did all this baby powder come
Right.
from? Like, I get it if it's the living room, but
Right.
how did you get it in the kitchen and in your room, in
Yeah.
your bathroom? Then she's covered in it. And I'm like, this thing's only 32 ounces. Like,
Right?
it's only so big. How the hell did you get all this baby powder everywhere?
She had like 4 bottles saved up.
It was weird, and I don't even remember how we got it. Cleaned up. Maybe some wipes or something like that. My daughter at the time, we went to Six Flags, and this is her first time going to Six Flags. She's maybe in, I don't know, 3rd, 4th grade, something like that, at Highlands Elementary. She's going to Highlands Elementary, and we get to Atlanta, and we're going to Six Flags, and it was raining. So they've got all the rides, and folks are waiting, and it's just one of those days where the rain was not going to stop, and it's like, we're probably going to have to turn around and go home because we're just not going to get a chance to ride on anything today.
Right.
And so the guy goes, well, there's one ride open if you guys want, and it's the oldest ride in the whole theme park, the old wood rickety thing. And I'm like,
Jesus,
I'm not getting on that one. And all the kids immediately ran because it was like that was the only one that was open. Yeah. So we get on this ride, and I'm whatever in my mind, I know this is a bad idea. But I get my daughter. We get my daughter on there, and we're getting on this thing, and this thing starts clank, 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 and it's going up, and you just know it's the worst idea. Mm-hmm. It scared my daughter to death. My daughter was screaming, and at the time, I'm thinking she's having a good time. She's screaming her lungs out.
You think it's a good scream,
and
not a bad scream.
And I look at her, I'm going, "Oh, you're scared to death." We're going through this ride. It's the worst ride ever. It's all wood.
It hurts.
Yeah,
like a
it
mud.
hurts your back. I lost my hat on it. It flew off. And we get off the ride. My daughter did not talk to me the whole rest of the field trip. Luckily, one of the other parents, she comes over and she notices, and she's all motherly. Because, again, women are smart. And she goes, I got it from here. And so the whole trip. And I'm trying to, 2 hours in, I'm going, hey, you want to come hang out with me and do this? No. Like, you did this to me. She did not want to hang out with me for the whole trip. And, so to this day, my daughter will not get on a
roller coaster
ride. Our boys, they're as funny as you can get. They dance, they rap, they produce, they're doing their own music. And just every day they make the best thing is just like let kids talk and just go in the other room and just listen. Don't let them know that you're listening, but kids have some of the wildest conversations amongst themselves. Mm-hmm. And they're in a room and I just sit there and listen. I don't interrupt them. I don't want them to know. And I don't want them to know that I'm listening because of course then they switch it up. But it just amazes me some of the conversations, like real serious conversations that like real deep thought that they put into whatever problems they're having at school or whatever kid across the street they hate, and just to hear them having these intellectual conversations with each other where it's like, this is stupid. Why are y'all talking about it? Right. It's the dumbest conversation I ever heard. Yeah. But they're seriously talking about it. I'm going, So precious. Kids are amazing, watching their different, personalities. Each one of my kids is funny in their own way, and they have their own personalities. You can't parent the same to all three of them.
Nope.
It's a different style, and then they notice that, so then they're going, well, you treat him, you didn't do this to him, and you didn't do that to her, because they're disciplined different. I can't discipline him or her the way that I discipline you. It's all different, but they really do learn from you, and I'm just glad that, they've all impress me in their own way of just funny stories. And I'm sure when I'll leave here, I'll go, damn, I forgot that one time that, this happened. I've had the time where I thought I lost my kid. It was the worst 4 minutes of my life. I'm at Low Mill, and we have a block party every year at Low Mill. And this, if you know anything about Low Mill, it is huge. Yep. It's a 3-story old cotton factory or something.
We were there yesterday.
Rooms everywhere. At the time, my kid is maybe 8 years old. So, I'm going, okay, he's at that point where I'm like, all right, I can trust where you are, but the whole thing is let me see you. If I can't see you, you can't see me, then, you're going too far. So you have to do this. And it was literally the most gut-wrenching 4 minutes of my life where I was just like, I ran through Low Mill looking everywhere. And I'm just going, he's just gone. So I kidnapped him. I don't know what's going to happen. All right, I guess, maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. How am I going to explain this to his mom? And it's that point where you're just like so scared. And then I'm walking past there's a game truck that's outside. There's a whole lot of people going. There's all types of stuff going on. He's not answering his phone or anything. And I'm going past the game truck, and he's like sitting right there in the game truck, and I'm going, Braden. And he looks up, and I'm going, where the hell you been? He's like, been in here the whole time. It's like,
Yeah,
what?
Dad.
It's like, all right. So I freaked out. It was the worst feeling I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was there that whole time just made me even more angry.
Yeah, not even worrying about you. Just like, I wanted to be at the game truck, Dad.
Like,
What?
put a reflector on or something.
Right.
Like, I know I looked for you the whole time.
Pick up the damn phone when I call.
I need a beacon. I need a light that just
Something.
flashes that says, here I am,
Yeah,
here
put
I
a bell
am.
on your ankle or something. Jesus. God.
That was a great story. All right. Well, I think we're at the end. So thanks for all our 13 listeners now
Hi, Mom.
for listening to another episode of A Guide to Poor Parenting.
If you like our podcast, please give us a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening on.
And if you don't like our podcast, just like when our kids wonder why we won't get them a treat after they've been treating us like crap all day,
Tough shit.
go be nice.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you,
Peace.
Tim.
Thank y'all.